Good morning, and behold, a stunning African sunset, a crisp and very cold upper atmosphere, and lots of clouds bringing us a pink, orange and grapefruit sunrise here as African dawn has broken in the northeastern corner of South Africa. You're on a live safari. My name is James Hendry. On camera today is Jean-Dre. Hello, Jean-Dre.
Hello,
I haven't worked with Jean-Dre since 1976, so it's very good to be with him again. Jean-Dre, how's your foot this morning?
I'm quite all right.
All right, we've been calling him Hoppy because he had a fight with a high-lift jack and lost quite comfortably. On the other vehicle, we've got Sam Chevalier. He is being filmed by Brian, all 6'4" of him, and 74 jackets. And in the final control, Kirsten McLennan-Smith, whose hair is roughly the same color as the sunrise, and she is being ably assisted by Rebecca. Hello, Rebecca, who's probably got... Rebecca's remarkable different kinds of hairdressers. Oh, it's not Rebecca today, it is Geraldine, the Cheesecake Kent, so it's good to have her back in the final control. You are all most welcome. If you have stumbled across this website because you're a North American insomniac, or perhaps you are an Australian early riser, or a night owl from Europe, please do talk to us at any stage of the drive. Hashtag Safari Live if you'd like to tweet through a question or a comment. Otherwise, questions at wildearth.tv, or you can talk to us on the YouTube chat stream. That seems to work very well as well. We've come to the hyena den today, and we were hoping to sort of have sunrise with the hyenas. There aren't any hyenas here. This is the first one we've checked so far. So we're going to pop gently up the road towards the north and see if the other den is active. If it isn't, we'll keep on towards the east of the reserve and see if we can't find any signs of some lions coming across. Otherwise, I've no doubt there'll be views and creatures aplenty to keep us entertained and enthralled for the course of the next 3 hours. Here we go. Jean-Ray, look how athletic I am, the way I sit down in the amazing seat of this Land Rover. There we go. Now, the weather, although it looks like we're dressed for the Arctic, is apparently 18 degrees Celsius, but 64 degrees Fahrenheit. But I've got to tell you, there's a wind chill out here that makes it a lot colder than that. And that's because we're now on the third day of this cold front, which, as you can see, seems to be breaking up. And I'm just going to stop here once more, just so that you can have a look at those utterly remarkable clouds. Isn't that astonishing? Wow. So you can hear a little bit of the wind blowing through the tips of the trees here. A couple of birds, just a dove off to the right. And a drongo. But otherwise, I think you'll find that the birds are huddling in the thick bush, their feathers ruffled out, hoping that the sun will break through the clouds for the first time in 3 days and warm them up as the morning progresses. It is just astonishing. It's like a heavenly skylight, really. And just gorgeous against the silhouetted trees. Very nice, Andre, well done. Andre, of course, has only got one shoe on. There we go. Ex-Ranger, you say it's 2 p.m. in Australia. So, yes. Well, no, you're not a morning. Of course not. You're in the afternoon there. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Ex-Ranger. 2 p.m. in Australia. I'd love to know if anybody's watching us from the east coast of America. West coast, sorry. And east coast. Tell us what the time is there. We'll probably work it out. West coast, probably 7 hours behind us. 6. East coast, sorry.
East coast, 6.
6 hours.
Midnight.
So you're sitting at about midnight, which makes the west coast 2 hours behind that. It's only about 10 o'clock. 9 or 10 o'clock. You're not an insomniac at all. Keep watching. And in Britain, of course, then you wouldn't really be watching unless you're an insomniac. It would be 4 a.m. Now, here is another little hyena den. This seems to be sort of a temporary refuge for them. And I've only ever seen them here once. I've checked that other den we were at twice now in the last 2 days, haven't found them. They could have moved, but the last time I said that, I ended up yet again with egg on my face, and they came back a day later. I don't think they were ever gone. I just think the adults weren't there when we were, and so the babies didn't come out. This is just quite interesting because that is where a hyena would live. A young hyena, up to about 9 months, will go into a den site like that. It's a termite mound. It's been excavated by an aardvark or ant bear initially, and then those little hyena cubs will excavate their own little portions, little shelves, and underneath there. And that is where they will go if they're ever threatened at all. They'll drop down into those holes, and no other predator will be able to get them. Okay, let us go across to Mr. Sam Chevalier. It is his 4th drive, and he has a spiral-horned antelope to show you. Right, sorry about that. Sam Chevalier has got no communications with you at the moment. Never mind. We'll continue on our drive. We'll try and find you a kudu as well. I hope you saw the kudu. I can tell you a little bit about Sam's kudu if you have any questions about it.
Male or female?
Yes, I don't know if it was male or female, everybody. Thank you very much for that, Chandra. Shut up and do your camera work. Okay, let's go out onto the northern boundary and see if we can find something with a heartbeat other than Gendre. Otherwise he's going to start talking. We don't want that, I promise. Oh, there's something very lovely about this morning, I must say. I think it's the light. And as I've said before, and I think I've probably said it a few times, I've probably said most things a few times actually since I started doing this job. There's only so much in your brain that you can share with people, you know. Clouds and a lack of sunlight definitely contribute to a feeling of slight depression in me. And over the last 2 days, I've sort of become progressively slightly more depressed. And as the sun's come out now, suddenly my spirits have lifted, so I can only imagine what it's like for those of you who live in places where it's cloudy more often than it isn't. All right, we're going to try and get hold of Sam because the final control cannot get hold of him. Sam Chevalier, come in, Sam Chevalier. There we go. Sam, final control is trying to get hold of you. Please try and do a comms test with them. Right, we're now on the northern boundary. So they're having trouble with their radio. So Kirsten, he says they are having trouble with the radio, trying to sort it out now. Chandra, do you feel depressed when it's very cloudy? Yes. You come from Cape Town, where it's cloudy for 3 months of the year at a time.
No, 4 seasons a day.
There's a constant fight in South Africa, everybody, between... Well, you see, people from Cape Town think that everything north of the Hottentots Holland Mountains, which are the mountains just north of the city, everything else is basically a worthless part of the country. The rest of us, of course, feel largely jealous of the fact that they have such beauty in Cape Town, and so we take every opportunity we can to diss the place. Well, mainly we diss its inhabitants, not so much the place itself. Not much popping out here with great enthusiasm to show itself. I'm sure it will over the course of the morning. Now, we didn't find the Nkuhuma Pride yesterday. We didn't find where they'd been even after we last saw them. And doing a little boundary patrol in the morning is always a good idea because it'll give you an indication of what has gone on during the night. The Bush newspaper, if you like, the Bush Morning Edition. So what we'll do is drive slowly along the northern boundary and see if any tracks have popped across during the course of the night. Lion tracks largely, and then we will go and have a look and see if Tingana, either Sam or I, will go and see if Tingana is still where he was last night. Now, for those of you who weren't with us last night, Tingana that is not in a good way. He's quite badly injured. We don't know why he's injured. Looks to me, I think, like he's been attacked by a hyena, caught while he was possibly in the throes of passion. I'll talk about that a little bit more just now. There is a magpie shrike, our first heartbeat of the morning. A spectacular view at 100 meters, just about. But that bird is not sitting there for some random reason. There are two of them there. There's a youngster on the left making that noise, and then an adult on the right. In fact, that isn't a youngster, it's a different bird entirely. But they're sitting there waiting for the first rays of the sun. It's a drongo to the left. It's the drongo. That drongo is chasing the magpie shrike. It was the drongo making the noise. It was imitating a magpie shrike. They're not very good imitators, but that's what was going on there. So, Tingana, not in a great way. I think he was attacked by a hyena, and I suspect what happened was that the mating noise that the female leopard makes and the male leopard makes when they mate will definitely attract the attentions of other predators, more dominant predators like a hyena, and I wonder if they weren't both attacked, and he seems to have been bitten on his backside. I don't think it would have been the female who managed to do that to him, and whether he'll recover or not, we're not sure. We need to get a better idea of his injuries. But animals are incredibly resilient out here, so I think he'll probably be okay. We'll go and have a look and see if he's still in the same place a little bit later. Yes, I am. Right, let us try again. Let us go across to Sam Chevalier. He is back online.
Back in action. We're live.
We live?
Yes.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Sabi Sands. We are here at Philemon's Dip as I'm learning my roads slowly but surely. I have Brian behind the camera, and it's been a difficult morning, just as I've been trying to figure out how to use the new vehicle. But you know what, these challenges are going to come, and I've got to try and get to the plate and learn a little bit more about everything that's here. So I had Wendy yesterday, and now it's Rusty, and we just had an incredible sighting with some kudu just now. Beautiful, secretive animals, definitely one of my favorite antelopes here in the bushveld. And we're just going to be heading south towards Gowrie Cutline, which is the edge of on Juba property, and we're going to see what we can find. But we had an incredible sunrise this morning. Brian, can you just see the last little parts of that sunrise? That's the sunrise over there. So the last few mornings, both morning drives that I've been on, have actually been quite cloudy. So it's the first time I've actually seen a really nice morning sunrise. So it's going to turn out to be a beautiful day, and this time of day is actually a really important time to see if you can find tracks. Because what happens is the lights, the angle of the lights in the morning and the evening helps to find the tracks that are going to be on the road a little bit easier. So I'm seeing loads of impala and loads of kudu tracks at the moment. So our mission today is to just bumble around, but also to see what birds we can find and add to our bird list. As you can see, I've got my favorite little blue book, and we're going to carry on and see if we can find the yellow-billed oxpecker today. Good morning, Leo King. How are you this morning? I hope that you are doing very well. The question was, how many flightless birds do we have down here in the Sabi Sands? And one of them will be the crescent francolin, which we've already seen in our bird book. Well, what we've put in here, but we have other types of francolin, like the Swainson's francolin, and so that most of the francolins are part of the ground nesting birds. You also have guinea fowl, helmeted guinea fowl, are also part of that family that don't fly. So yeah, we'll see what else we can find. Hopefully we can find some more francolins and helmeted guinea fowl to put to our list. But there's one person I forgot to introduce, and I feel quite bad. It's actually the thumb of Brian. Good morning, Brian's thumb. Welcome to your work day. You see he's got his tie on today. What colour tie does he have today, Brian?
Orange.
He's got an orange tie. Orange tie for a Friday. It's Friday. I actually have no idea what day of the week it is. So, and that's what the most beautiful thing is about being in the bush, is that you don't really have to know what day of the week is it. Ever. Every day is the same, the bushveld. Okay, so we are in Gowrie, Maine now. There we go. You can see we've got a perfect angle for the sunlight now. We can see if there's been any tracks that have moved across the road over the night. We know, from what I remember, it was this block that we were with Tingana. The first time I've been with a male leopard, it was such an incredible sighting for me here in the Sabi Sands to really get to know Tingana and understand his territory and understand the way in which he lives his life. It was quite difficult to see, because at the same time, because he was actually quite injured. Did you notice? I don't know who was there yesterday morning, but he looked like he was in quite a lot of pain. He had like cuts on his sides, and the prediction was that Tingana was actually injured by Tandi during the mating over the last 3 days. So I think he might actually still be up in the bush, hiding somewhere, just resting and trying to get his energy back. At the same time, his energy is also going to be needed through eating food. He's only going to gain energy through feeding. So he'll also definitely see if he can try and get an opportunistic sighting and get something to eat and fill his belly up with something that'll help him get a little bit better and recover faster. But I'm yet to meet one of his beautiful wives, Tandi. She sounds like an amazing leopard, and I'm sure I'll have the time to see her. Wow. Brian, can you just highlight the grasses? Can you get a good shot of the grasses? Look how beautiful those grasses are with the... Yo, it's beautiful, that golden light on those grasses. It's incredible. So Jeffrey is asking from Texas, what is the most intelligent bird species that we get out here? Wow. You know, Jeffrey, I wouldn't actually categorize any birds as more clever than the other. They all got their own sense of genius out in the wilderness. To be able to survive is not an easy experience, but of course there are some that have very intelligent ways of actually becoming more efficient within the bush, which can be termed as intelligent. And that would be the cuckoo. I think the cuckoo is just a fascinating bird. The Diedrich's cuckoo, Jacobin's cuckoo, and you get a number of the different types of cuckoos. And Hashtag Safari Live, the different cuckoos that you know, wherever you are in the world. I'd love to know what cuckoos come into your area. But I love the cuckoo because of its way in which it has brood parasitism. It's incredible that a cuckoo can go into a nest and actually lay a very similar looking egg to that of another bird. So brood parasitism, just so that everyone knows and you all know, is when a bird will come into another bird, like a starling, for example, can come into the nest. The cuckoo can come into the nest of the starling, lay an egg that is similar looking to the starling, and will hatch and be raised by the mother starling throughout its life. And then at the end of its life, well, not at the end of its life, during its life, it will go to a female cuckoo or a male cuckoo, and it will carry on its life. So it doesn't think it's a starling. So it's incredible. It really is an intelligent way of surviving out here as a species. So I really enjoy the cuckoo, and I'll do my very, very best to find a cuckoo, but I know it'll be quite difficult now as a lot of them are very migratory. My favorite of the cuckoos is actually the Diedrich's cuckoo. The Diedrich's cuckoo, wow. The sound of it goes Diedrich's. Diedrich's. Guys, I'm going to keep it down a little bit as we come into this drainage basin, because this, as you can see, is a little river bend, and often during the day or in the mornings you can find leopards that will walk through here, even hippos that will be resting after eating and grazing at night time. So just going to go silently through here. Brian, if you could keep it just on the river, and just help everyone see if they can see anything that I can't see. This is often this is a very secretive place, because you can, it's a drainage line, and often you'll find, kudu and nyala, leopard, all sorts of very secretive animals, and we're going to do our best to see what we can find in this drainage basin as we come underneath this beautiful jackalberry tree. See if we can find any bird species as well in this area. As I slowly move through this drainage basin, we're going to see what James is up to. See you later.
We are almost at the northeastern corner now, and shortly we will turn south. We have found no tracks of anything other than one or two elephants that have wandered across this road. So no lions and no leopards at this stage, but that's okay. It is very pleasant driving through this morning, I must say. And when we get to the top here, I'll just turn around and give you a view out behind us. The loveliness of the clouds, and where you can just see the mountains silhouetted. I'll stop up here and we can have a look. So no sign of the lions calling either last night. And so for a little while we had a territorial dispute going on between the Salatis, the sort of northern coalition of two, and the Birmingham boys, the southern coalition of 5 male lions who kind of dominate Djuma. But Djuma is kind of the very northern reaches of their territory. They don't feel a tremendous amount of threat at this particular area of their territory, and so they don't spend a great deal of time here, the Birmingham boys, which is a distressing thing for us. That will change over the course of time because lion society is very fluid. So there we go. Have a look down there. very lovely picture there. You can see the mountains just through the haze there. There's that sort of dark bit sticking up above the green. Nestled beneath them is the dubious settlement of Hoedspruit, of course. And still, you can hear not much in the way of bird song, because there is still a chilly wind, but the sun has touched the tops of the trees there, you can see. And very soon, I think there will be a little bit more bird song. And I think also this wind will probably die off a little bit as the sun breaks. There's a lovely bird calling. That's the red-crested corhan. Do you know what a red-crested corhan looks like, John Ray?
I do.
Well, if you didn't, I'd have shown you. And for those who don't know what a red-crested corhan looks like, it looks like that over there. And it's also known as the suicide bird, so called because, as you can see from this little display picture there, it flies up into the air, folds its wings and drops to the ground, just normally after it's made that call. Flies up, and all the other Korans look up into the air, they see where he is, and his territory will then spread in a cone from the apex of his flight. And suicide bird because some of the younger birds, when they fold their wings and drop to the ground, they forget to open their wings. They don't quite time the opening of their wings correctly, and they plummet into the ground and have a small concussion for the remainder of the day. That is the red-crested corhan. So we're now on the eastern boundary, the far east of Juma. To the east of us, that's to the left-hand side of your screen, is Torchwood. To the right, the, well, not very vast expanse, but very attractive expanse of Juma. Look, you see there, Jean-Ray? It's on the top of this scraggly tree in front of us. It's an eastern paradise wider. Now, look at that. Many of you won't have that on your bird lists yet. So I know Sam is keeping a bird list with a lot of the new bird list keepers, but for those who aren't keeping a new bird list and perhaps are looking for a new bird, the eastern paradise wider is probably a good one. And you can see, can you imagine how seasick he must be getting sitting on that tree? That's really nice. Very few of them have been around this season. I think because of the lack of grass. They are grass eaters. And I will show you a picture of him, and I will also show you what he's going to look like in just a month or two. He will not maintain that long tail throughout the summertime. There you can hear the red-crested corhan calling again as the sun starts to really light up. Another beautiful morning. He's clinging on for dear life there. So, here he is in the book. That's him there, the eastern paradise wider. And that's the male. The female is a fairly drab affair. That's her there. And he will look precisely the same as that, or almost the same. There he is in his winter plumage. So that is purely for his summertime plumage. And all of these widers, the pin-tailed and the shaft-tailed, are the same. They will all start to look completely indistinguishable from the average sort of finch-like little brown job for the course of the wintertime. So those tails are an advertisement to the ladies, and they show the ladies, the longer the tail basically, the more chance he has of mating. And what they demonstrate to the ladies is that despite this incredible encumbrance that he has on his backside, he's able to survive. He's able to set up a territory and escape predators, and that means that he must be very strong and must have good genes, and that will then inspire ladies to acquiesce to his amorous advances. There he goes. How cool is that? Right, it's the eastern paradise wider, heads appropriately off east.
And a nyala, everyone. a beautiful male nyala. Look at those horns and the fur and the socks on his legs and the beautiful white little spots around his body, the white stripes, the long little bits of fur at the top which stand up straight when he's against another male. The nyala certainly is an incredible looking antelope. And just as I said a little bit earlier, we would most likely find a kudu or a nyala in the bushveld or in the brush because they are very, very secretive animals, just like the kudu. And you can see those stripes. Can you see the stripes and the dots through the green there? That actually helps with the coloration. It helps with the camouflage of the nyala. It helps, it almost looks like lights between the trees when you have a look at those, the white on the nyala through that brush. But that was an incredible sighting of a nyala. I truly, truly love the nyala. It's a very, very beautiful animal, much like the kudu, as I said, as it walks through here. And we were very lucky to have seen it. And, they have a very, very sharp bark, just like the kudu have a very, very sharp bark. And I'm just going to go to the back here and see if we can find nyala. Okay, so that's the kudu. We saw the kudu a little bit earlier. So it's very similar to the nyala in ways, but of course the kudu is a lot bigger. And their tracks, as you can see over here, are also very, very big. So that's the kudu, which we actually saw just a couple minutes ago. So I just wanted to show you the kudu. This is not the animal that we just saw. I just want to let you know that we saw the nyala. So we're just going to go and see if we can find the nyala. Here's the nyala. And over here, we can see that was the same looking one that we saw. It was a male. You can see the white stripes on the back, the beautiful horns. And over here, we can see that that's a female. So the female, the sexual dimorphism between the male and the female is huge, is very significant. And most of the time, you'll find that the mother and the young will be together. And males you often find walking alone in the bush. So that was an exceptionally awesome sighting of the nyala. And hopefully we can see if we can find a female and a youngster. That would be great. So that was a beautiful sighting of the nyala. We are still moving slowly through this river drainage basin, and we're going to see if we can find something else. I keep hearing the magnificent liquid sound of the black-headed oriole, and I've heard it a few times, so even yesterday and the day before, and I'm going to do my very, very best to see if we can find one. So I'm going to switch on my vehicle and carry on. While I slowly meander my way through here, let's see what James is doing with the elephants.
We've just come across an enormous herd of elephants here, and there's a great deal of playing going on. You can see in front of us there a conflagration in the road, two youngsters having a bit of a box in the background, another two having a little bit of a box, the mother there saying, "Stop it, eat your breakfast," another little one rushing in and saying, "Mum says you've got to stop." The rest of them just kind of making their way through the morning, enjoying the little bit of sun and enjoying the fresh grass that has come as a result of the little bit of rain that we had in the late summer. This is great. Isn't that a wonderful picture? And I can smell them now. An elephant smells like a sort of sweet leather, if you like. lots of them sort of sorting out their little dominance hierarchies, the little ones having a play. I'm sure the wind's got something to do with that. They're all standing quite close by, and you can see them kind of jostling for position. That little one showing irritation with his friends. And Kirsty's just saying that she reckons this might be the same herd that was with Jamie yesterday. Brian, at least, Genre, you were with Jamie, weren't you?
Yeah, I don't recognise them.
Okay. Apparently, the ones from yesterday, one of the herds that Jamie had yesterday was that very distinctive cow, Fang, with her recurved tusk. So if she's here, we'll know that that is the case. But I think the first herd that was playing on the road with her wasn't. You can see one just in the background there going up a termite mound, chasing his friend up. There. That's a wonderful behavior. And that little one is just, it's exactly the best way to understand elephant behavior is to pretend that this is human behavior. So it's exactly the same as a 4-year-old human being wanting to play with a sort of 8-year-old youngster. And the 8-year-old just kind of putting up with it for now, but eventually will sit up and push him out the way. The little baby in the road there trying to also play. Little face planting. And I'm sure that's the mother of that little one there just saying, hang on a second, don't show off, push your face into this dirt. It's very unbecoming for an elephant of our station. Mother doesn't care, at least the little one doesn't care. But I want to play in the sand. It's so awesome. Now, Kyle, while we're doing this, I think you're going to be able to answer your own question here. What is the emotion that you get from looking at these animals? Kyle wants to know if I think that the animals out here have emotions. Do they feel anything? Or do they just go about like automatons, eating what they need to eat? Mating when they need to, and just sort of glumly going through life. Kyle, I think that if you watch these elephants, you cannot but get the sense that they are excited, that they are happy, and they're having a good time. Look at that. Little one just enjoying playing in the sand there, maybe having a little bit tired after the night. So I have no doubt in my mind, Kyle, that animals out here feel emotions. Yes, there are scientists even to this day who will tell you that animals don't have emotions. Those are few and far between these days, though. Another one sitting down, lying on the ground. But anybody who's ever owned a cat or a dog or perhaps even a horse will know that there are days when they're in good moods and days when they're in bad moods. Sometimes that's just chemical, but it's unquestionably true. And elephants especially are very good at showing their emotions. They show us when they're angry, when they're sad, when they're happy. This is wonderful. So I think they've had a chilly night, and now there's a bit of sun out. They're having a bit of a play. You can see the adults, exactly as with human behavior, are going about the kind of business of the day. They're eating what they need to eat, deciding where to go for water later on, perhaps thinking about where they're going to rest in the middle of the day. The youngsters couldn't give a flying continental. They're just playing, and they know they're carefree. They know that the adults are going to look after whatever decisions need to be made for the day. And so in their happy, carefree state, they're just playing in the dawn. I'm going to sneak slowly forward. One or two of them gave us a bit of a look as we arrived here. There's a big bull. We'll just ease forward. I don't want to affect them at all. They're having such a good time. There, look at those two fighting there. And there's nothing very serious about that. Yes, there is an element of seriousness in that there is a dominance hierarchy that will be kind of sorted out by playing, again, exactly as it is with young boys or young human beings. Young men playing on the playground or playing sport with each other. That's exactly what's going on here. I don't even know where to look, you know. There are probably, I don't know, about 30 elephants around us, Chandra. They're a pretty big herd, especially for this area, and very nice that they are heading into Djuma as opposed to out of it. Very well hidden there, and then these little ones there, again, lying on the ground, face planting. That's a tiny little thing, less than a year old. Just quickly going to join Mum, feeling slightly nervous now. There is a larger bull around, neither of those two. That larger bull, when he comes into frame off there, that's him walking the far side there, Chandra, yeah. Just disappearing in the background there. And when he's around, you notice things calm, quite obviously. These two young chaps are showing each other who's boss. Now, I mean, the force with which those two animals have just bashed into each other is impressive. But because they are so big, of course, it doesn't really affect them. This is just amazing. I don't think there's any real doubt as to who's the dominant one there, although, come on, push back, don't be afraid. I can just hear a kind of, what should we say, pre-teen playground going on here. I can just hear the voices of human boys as they push each other about. I'm enjoying lying in the dirt. Feeling very exuberant there, chasing some other youngsters who are off to the left there. And they sneak slowly forward. Two more having a little wrestle in there. Deborah, Armchair Traveller, I tend to agree with you. You say this is one of the best sightings out of many wonderful elephant sightings. It is, it's incredible. I'm just going to see how we can sneak right in here. There we go. This is awesome. I don't even know where to look. There to the right, you've got them fighting. Another three on the left having a bit of a wrestling match. And these are all young bulls. I don't know what's got into them. It might be the presence of that much larger bull around the herd. It's kind of got them showing off. You can't really, I suppose, get an impression of the size of them from there. So these are, I would say, between sort of 10 and 15-year-old bulls, 10 and 14 maybe, and they probably weigh about 3 tons each. 3 to 4 tons each, that's 3,000 to 4,000 kilograms. And in pounds, that would be about 6,600 pounds. 6,600 to 700,000, at least to 7,000 pounds. That's a smaller one, slightly smaller one there, being a bit bullied by the other two. And chased further and further away from the herd. The youngsters, the really little ones, have now been told by their mothers that they need to come and have their morning milk. and stop horsing about the place. Well, the young bulls will no doubt complain bitterly as they have to move later on during the day, and then they want to actually sit down and then have a rest. And mothers, as with humans, will say, "Oh, we told you so. Now keep up." I often think that elephants get bored, you know, especially by young bulls like this. I think that they find us quite interesting some of the time when they're a bit bored. And likewise, when they get the opportunity to play, when the herd stops moving fast, they like to take those opportunities to have a bit of a laugh. That's great. Kimber, thank you for your question. As they disappear there off into the greenery, you've noticed how they flick their ears out. Here's a good example, Andre, in front of us. There's an elephant flicking its ears out, and it's now taken offense to us. And Kimber, you're absolutely correct. They do that to say, look how big and terrifying I am. Of course, unfortunately, this bull has now realized that we're not going anywhere, and so is a bit embarrassed and is going to rush off through the bush there. But yes, when you see them opening their ears out like that, it's to show us how big they are. It's going to join the fracas off to the left of us. Now remember, those tusks are teeth. So they are the big front incisor teeth. So I imagine it probably does hurt a little bit. Anna Marie, I agree with you. It's a very distinctive sound, that clash of tusks against tusks, as is the sound of buffalo horns crashing together, even if they're just sort of play fighting like these ones are. You can hear it from a long way, A, and B, it is very distinctive. It's easy to pick out. This is just brilliant. And that's a classic example there, Kimber. When they turn their heads and shake them and open their ears out, they're saying, "Go away, leave me alone." Wants to eat now, wants his breakfast, tired of playing. And the other one, listen, do you see that? There we go, joining another fracker. Sure that I've seen a herd with so many young bulls like this before. It's quite unusual. And they're all going to cross the road basically where we are, because the rest of the herd has grazed off towards the west. Here comes another one to show us how big and tough he is. Come on, say hi. So like I say, I think they get bored, and I think when we come along like this, and we're clearly not a threat, it's quite interesting for them to just come and see what we do. Little bit of streaming from the gland between the ears and the eyes there. That's the temporal gland. And I think all that is a result of this play fighting that they're doing. Thank you, Jean-Andre, for that. I'm just trying to stay out of your picture, everyone. Andre is a comedian today, I see. And I mean, we look at these elephants and we think, well, surely there must be some kind of injury accruing every so often because it looks quite vicious. And you hear the sound of them thrashing against each other. And Megan, I've often had exactly the same thought as you. Do they ever have eye injuries from these clashes that they have? And no, they don't seem to. And I find it amazing. I think you find that the animals here are incredibly good at sort of first dodging potential things that might stab them, and they're also pretty good at not actually hurting each other. I think if this was serious, there'd be a lot more of an attempt to genuinely do some harm. And I watched once, we're going to drive around and see if we can pick them up coming out the other side of the clearing. When I was watching two nyala having a physical fight, because that seldom happens. They normally just do that ridiculous sort of balletic dance around each other. And it was the most amazing thing to watch when we watched it carefully, how it was like two highly skilled fencers going at each other, and the horns would tap, 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 and they knew how to predict the movements of the other one's horns, because without that, those horns would unquestionably have pierced and stabbed and really done some horrible damage. But they'd learnt over the years how to cope with the different, with the different movements of the horns, and they could avoid injury that way. And I'm pretty sure it's the same with the elephants. So this little chap is now breaking off a stick. He's decided to stay away from the fighting and have something to eat, rather. He's probably a young cow who's just a bit more mature than the young bulls. Just eating off the bark there. All right, let's head across to Sam. He's got a much smaller but much more colourful animal to show you.
The lilac-breasted roller, everyone. One of the most stunning birds in the bushveld, and we are so lucky this morning because the sun is shining right on the lilac-breasted roller. You can see the colors. What are those colors? They go from purple to blue to green to brownish. Wow. There are a number of different types of rollers that you get here, and this is one of our residents, the lilac-breasted roller. Incredible, incredible bird. Just sitting here and watching it in the sunlight is spectacular. It's been a long time since I've seen the lilac-breasted roller, and you normally see them everywhere, so I'm sure I'm going to be seeing you a lot, Mr. Lilac-breasted roller. And with that, I'm going to write you onto our bird list. So, you are number 8, the lilac-breasted roller. And with that, if anyone would like to, I forgot to mention a little bit earlier that the lilac-breasted roller, as I said, I put it onto my bird list. Sorry if I sound congested. My nose, since I've been here in the Sabi Sands, has been really quite full. So if I sound different, it's because of that. But we sat here and we've got magpie shrike, red-billed oxpecker, blacksmith plover, the crested franklin, the barn swallow, the Birchall's starling, the grey liri or turaco, and now the lilac-breasted roller. We had the yellow-billed hornbill, the yellow-billed hornbill just now. It was just to the right of us. Beautiful bird as well. And obviously, of course, we cannot show you, we cannot write it down once I've seen it with you. So throughout the day, hopefully I'm going to be able to see these birds with you and write them down. But we've got so much time together that, it doesn't really, there's no rush to get everything. So we can kind of sit here and actually appreciate the lilac-breasted roller a little bit more and understand and have a look at maybe some of the other ones that exist here. So, over here is the lilac-breasted roller. Above us, is the European roller. But we're just going to be seeing what's happening down with James. We'll see just now. Bye.
Right. Okay, everybody. Little slight confusion there. Anyway, here we are. Two more elephants here. They were playing in the road, and a young bull came to within sort of 2 feet of us. A very young one, the one who was in front of us before you went across to Sam. And unusually, I mean, he came to within 2 feet, and smaller than the others. And then a bigger one came up, the one that you can see in the distance, well, you can't, just to the right-hand side of you there. He came up, and he's bigger. And the little one held at the ground, and eventually the big one kind of backed off a bit. That's lovely. That's nice to see, isn't it, John? It's quite impressive. Good flow, bladder function, perfect. Stomach working perfectly. Good. Nice to know. It's quite astounding how often we find animals in that sort of compromised position. I always remember my father's dog, Trubshaw, a profoundly stupid Staffordshire Bull Terrier who is sadly no longer with us. He used to look so embarrassed when on his walks he could hold it in no longer and he had to go to the loo, and he used to kind of look out the back of his eye at us as if to say, please avert your faces. The elephants have no such qualms at all. They're shouting off to the back there. I think what we're going to do, there's a little road up here. Let's go around. I don't want to sort of follow them through this thick bush. They've been so wonderful to us, and I think making a noise behind them is going to affect their behavior. So we don't need to do that, so we won't. So let's go along here at a relatively speedy speed and see if we can't pick them up the other side. There's still elephants dotted about through the bush here in Torchwood. There are lots and lots of them around, which is wonderful. I hope they hang around for a long time. Hold on, everybody. We're going to swing right. Now, we have watched lions and we've watched hyenas, which are two obviously social animals that live around here, and the social structure of which we understand pretty clearly. And we know that a female moving from one pack or from one clan or pride to the other is highly unlikely to be accepted. In Aqua, you want to know if the same situation arises for elephants. Would a strange female not born into this herd be accepted? And the answer is yes, probably. They're not territorial elephants. They're known to have a much more egalitarian sort of society where they do look after each other. They will adopt youngsters from females who have died, and they will look after their sick. They'll stay behind with them. So yes, I absolutely think that a strange female who they didn't know, they might take a little bit of time to get used to her, but I think they would accept her into a herd like this. And remember, I think you referred to this as a family. There are some familial connections in it, but it's not a family strictly, in that the sort of makeup of the herd is females, related females, and their related offspring. So it's not a family in the sense of a nuclear family where the bull is around. There's no father figure at all. The father figure and the fathering role that bulls play, and they do play a mentoring role to young bulls when the young bulls leave the herd, and he comes much later. So when the bulls leave the herd at age 17 or so, they then go off on their own. They don't really know what to do. They often go off in a little group or join up with other bulls of the same sort of age. And they are often mentored or disciplined by much bigger bulls when they come across them. I think it's quite an interesting thing that happens. Very few mammals do the fathers do anything other than provide this sperm with which the youngsters are created. Elephants, slightly different. Here they are. Here's the rest of the herd coming through now. got much quieter suddenly. So those bulls that were horsing around there on the clearing are further off behind those elephants there. That's a cow, probably some young cows, and they're just having their breakfast sedately. I just find the similarities with human society, not of course in terms of social structure, but in terms of behavior. It is remarkable how similar it is. You can just see a family with young girls going to do exactly what their mothers say, having their breakfast and making sure that they do their morning constitutionals when they're supposed to. And the bulls horsing around, you can even hear them in the background. Natasha, I think your question, if I'm not mistaken, is their skin rough? Is that correct, Kirsten? Is that what Natasha wants to know? What does their skin feel like? It feels pretty soft, Natasha. I mean, unfortunately, the only elephant skin that I've felt has been on a recently expired or recently died elephant. But yes, it's not that hard. There we go, moving off. It's sort of, it's probably not quite as soft as, well, what I don't know. It's not the softest leather in the world, but it's not as hard as you might think it is. It does have a sort of softness to it. And you can hear the bulls there shouting at each other. It's the most terrifying sound. And yesterday morning I was walking around I was just going for a walk to see if I could find anything. And I came across a herd probably about the size. I wonder if it wasn't the same herd. And I sort of moved away from them because I could hear them doing this sort of thing. They were shouting at each other and they were running in between the bushes, and all I could see was a little bit of grey and then just breaking trees. And of course you can't see then which direction they're going to be running in. So you do need to be a little bit careful. There are a few more up ahead on the road. Here comes the sun gendry. Oh, it's so nice when it touches your face on a chilly morning like this. Let's try and ease our way in here. Some of the cows, like I said, look at there. Some of the cows, like I said, when we first saw them, did stop and have a look at us, just listened carefully. So I'm just going to be quite careful about how we approach them. There's a big cow in front of us, and she's just moving the dead wood out of the way so that she can graze on the green grass. And often the grasses underneath that dead grass, the dead wood, it's quite sweet. It's called Panicum maximum, and it's a really favored grazing grass of all the animals out here. And so she just almost delicately moved that probably 50 or 60 kilogram log out of the way, and now she's enjoying the sweet panicum underneath it. And you may be able to hear them talking. You can see she's listening to them. A whole lot more elephants talking to each other in the background, making those high, at least very low-pitched grumbling noises. Again, the atmosphere is filled with the smell of elephant. The skin, and of course the numerous dung piles that they're making all over the place here. There's a trumpet. There's definitely quite a lot going on in this herd. See her moving towards where that sound's coming from. There might be a bull in the herd who's causing a little bit of distress. Like I say, those youngsters, I mean, they looked like they were showing off to me, so it's quite possible that there's a bull around. Let's just go a little bit further forward. Here's a young cow feeding through the bush. I'm sure that's her mum, the big one that we were watching now. Oof. And look at the colour through that feathered chloris grass. That's just beautiful. Nothing like some backlit chloris there, Chandra.
There's no sun on it.
Shut up. I remember now why we haven't worked with each other for so long. Kirk, you say South Africa sure is beautiful with all this green. It is, Kirk. Remember, this is a very small piece of a very magnificent country. All the way down to Cape Town, which was recently, I think, voted one of the most beautiful city in the world.
Amen.
With its with its mountain and beautiful seascapes, into the winelands there, up into the Karoo, a desolate and stunning kind of arid region in the center of the country, the Garden Route all the way up the western Cape Coast, up to the Eastern Cape, where my parents live, some of the most beautiful coastlines you'll find anywhere in the world. So we do have an incredible country. And then up into the northeastern regions, which we call the lowveld or the bushveld, where wildlife is the thing that attracts millions of tourists every single year. So yes, Kirk, an absolutely stunning country, and we're very privileged to live here. I'm going to think we're going to leave these elephants now. Buffelshoek Dam is not too far to the north of us, so let's go and have a look what's going on there. See if the hippo is still hiding his head under the water. The last time I went there, he was trying to hide away from the wind by putting his head under the water. While we do that, let us go across to Sam Chevalier. He has got some zebra to show you.
We are here with the zebra. Probably the second or third sighting that I've had with zebra here in the Sabi Sands at Djuma. This beautiful green lush property. You can see that the zebra is now grazing on the nice fertile green grass. So it's been a very, very dry, well, it was supposed to be the rainy season, so it's been a dry rainy season, and the zebras are now grazing on some nice fresh green grass, which is going to give it the nutrients and the energy that it needs to sustain a life out here in the bushveld. I've just been told that you've been chatting with James about how he's talking about how green and lush our country is and how beautiful it is to see it in this way, and I can thoroughly agree with him. You can see that it's enjoying the top. You can see how the zebra enjoys eating the top of the grasses. Much different to that of the wildebeest, who likes to eat the small parts of the grass. So that's part of the successive grazing, where the zebra and the wildebeest eat different types of grasses, which helps with the ecology of the area, the diversity of grassland, and just an overall better environment. There's a smaller one there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zebra. What we call a dazzle of zebra that will move. If I was a predator now and I was moving towards them, they would run, and it would be difficult for me to catch one of them because of the way in which their coloration is. It confuses me, it dazzles me if I had to try and catch a zebra. Beautiful looking zebras out here this morning. I thought I would show you quickly in the book something. Here. So it is otherwise known as the Burchell's zebra, Equus burchelli. Over here we can see the track of the zebra, very, very significant track over here. And you can just see them grazing, just like we see them grazing in front of us. But yeah, so it's incredible to see this. I've seen I don't know if anyone knows the names of the other zebra in the Cape. Well, I've just said it, the Cape zebra. Where I live in Cape Town, I often go out with my father and go and look at some of the Cape zebra. Also a beautiful species to have a look at and watch in the Cape. I'm going to see if I can just get a closer sighting of these zebra as they graze on this beautiful morning in the bushveld. Bushveld means woodlands, so they're grazing out here in the woodlands. And as we saw the other day, the last 2 days have been exceptionally windy. The weather has been difficult for all types of herbivores out here in the Sabi Sands because it makes it difficult for them to smell the predator. So often in these situations, the zebra, the impala, the giraffe will come into the open areas to use the use of having more sight to see and see what's going on around them, but also they all gather here, so more eyes means a better chance of survival. And there's just some impala just ahead there to the left, which complements just what I was saying, that they like to come into the open areas, but they especially do this at night time, so it's moving in towards the daytime and they could probably go in their separate directions. They will mostly be grazing out here on the grasses. The impala are very different to that of the zebra, as the impala browse on both, well, it browses and grazes, so it'll browse on the leaves and the grasses, whereas the zebra most of the time will graze on the grasses. Beautiful. So stunning in that morning light, eh? Wow. A dazzle of zebra. And there the impala are now in the shots just behind it. Beautiful camera work from Brian. And you can see that tail is used very significantly to swat the flies, because you can imagine there's so many flies out here, and the flies come and really, really annoy the zebra, so they can use that as a fly swatter. And look at that beautiful mane. So I really am in love with the zebra and the way in which its design is, the black and white, or the white and black. Very, very incredible creatures. My sister used to have a horse. It's called Galactic Ice. And I've been way too scared to go on horses, because when I was a kid, I went on my sister's horse and we went out and I fell off it and I really injured myself. And ever since then, I've had a phobia of riding horses. So I'm very, very scared of that. But actually, last year, I was staying at my girlfriend's house in the Pantanal, close to the Pantanal in Brazil. And we woke up one morning and the uncle, who didn't speak much English, brought me out into the paddock, and he got me onto a horse, and next thing I was on a horse, and I couldn't really tell him, listen, his name was Marcos, very, very nice man, Marcos. He got me onto the horse, and next thing I was going through the Pantanal, which was incredible, and we went looking for jaguar out in the Pantanal. Such an incredible experience that was, and the Pantanal is just exceptional, but I was very nervous, going through a terrain that I had never really been in before, especially looking for a jaguar, which I had never seen before. And so new experiences come with a little bit of stress, but they're always really good for you. And that's actually where you learn the most, is where you put yourself in positions where you didn't think that you might be able to do it. Just like this, I'm out here in the Sabi Sands, learning how to present to many different people. I thought it would be impossible, but I threw myself into this position to see how it would fit. And if it didn't work, it didn't work. But at the moment it's working, and thanks to the team that are behind me, from Brian to Kirsty and Rebecca and James and everyone that was here. Even Scott had a really big influence on me when I came down here. He really sat me down and gave me the confidence I needed to be out in the bushveld. So with that, I would say in life, always challenge yourself and do things that you don't think you could do. James's hat. James's hat. Is that a Twitter name? Does James have Does James have someone who has... Anyway, that's remarkable. I hope someone out there will get Sam's hat. Jokes. This is my hat, so I'll make my own Twitter name as Sam's hat. But as the question that James's hat is asking me is whether the zebra and the horse are very similarly related. And yes, of course, they are very related. But they're not. You can't domesticate a zebra, not the way in which you can domesticate a horse. They're very, very different in personality between the horse and the zebra. Not that I've ever tried to domesticate a zebra, and I would never try. I think it's a terrible thing when we try to domesticate wild animals. It doesn't really work so well. But to answer your question, James's hat, I don't think. That they're very similar in terms of their personality. Even though they've got the same sort of genes. In terms of personality, they are very, very different animals. See what else we have out here in the bushveld. I find it remarkable that James's hat is such a celebrity. That's so cool. Ryan just asked a great question, and that was, what is the difference between a Burchell's and a Cape zebra? Well, the Cape zebra, of course, is found in the Cape, and the Burchell's zebra is found here in Savannah. But let's take it to the book and see what the book says about the difference between a Cape and a Burchell's zebra. Cape and a Burchell's zebra. Let's do this together. The zebra. Where is the zebra? Why am I being ABCW? Why is it only going up to W? Oh, because it's my bird book. That is quite embarrassing, everyone. That was my bird book looking for a zebra. That's obviously not going to work too well. 132. So, the Cape zebra, otherwise known as the mountain zebra. So let's have a look at the Burchell's zebra. Zebras, yeah, so that's the Burchell's zebra, Equus burchelli. I'm just going to see if I can find something that tells us the significant difference between the Burchell's and the Cape. So that's the mountain, rather not the Cape, the mountain zebra. I learned it as the Cape, in the book it is the mountain. As you can see, there's two dots that'll show you where you can find it here in the Cape. That's where I live. That's South Africa. That's Cape Town over there. I live in a place called Hout Bay, which is just to the left there. That's where I go surfing and climbing mountains. But let's just see. The Cape mountain zebra is confined to the southern mountains of the Cape. Its black stripes are broader than that of those, the Harteman's mountain zebra, which occurs in mountain parts of Namibia. Unlike Burchell's zebra, its call is low and plaintive neigh. So there's no significant difference that I'm seeing. Well, of course there is a big difference, but in the book it's not telling me that much of the difference. But I'll go back and I'll do some more research on some of the more significant differences between the mountain zebra and the Burchell zebra that we get here in the Sabi Sands. Thanks for bringing that up. It's very interesting to go into a little bit more depth on the difference between the one that I know a little bit better from Cape Town to the one that we have here. Hello Marie, you asking, are jaguars and leopards the same size? That's a great question. You know, when I saw a jaguar in the Pantanal, it was very, very, very quick. I didn't have the opportunity to look at it for a long time. While I was staying in the Pantanal, I went for about a week every single day and just went looking for them. And only on the last day did I really see a jaguar, and it was so quick. It just went straight through the river, and then it was gone. And I was so amazed by that experience that I couldn't really take to looking at it. But of course, you know, they're very similar. So they're actually very similar, the jaguar and the leopard of the savannah. Jaguar is a little bit bigger from the research that I've done. And I mean, of course, you know, the Cape leopard is half the size of the savannah. So the jaguar is a little bit stronger built because it has to climb in the trees. During the rainy season in the Pantanal, the water picks up, and so the jaguars have to go into areas, and they have to swim. So they need to be a little bit more powerful, and therefore they have bigger muscles than the savannah here. The Cape, back in Cape Town, is half the size of all of them, and actually has a much, much bigger territory than the savannah leopard. What an incredible encounter that I was given and had the opportunity of seeing. It really is this, you know, it's such being in the presence of a wild predator such as a jaguar or a leopard here in the savannah is just significant, because they have such an influence on the landscape, you know. Wow. Here we are, guys. Sorry, guys. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Oof. What's going on here, guys? We're having a very interesting encounter here. I can't see. Ooh, it looks like a little bit of dominance. I think it could be two young males. I can't quite see. But we can see. How is this, everyone? This is... What an amazing sighting. I'm noticing now as I look, we can't see much through the bush, but what's actually happening are two elephants that they're going at each other. I can't tell if they're males. I'm not able to see through the bush veld here. But I'm going to see if I can reposition into a space where I can get a better picture. So I'm just going to reverse and see. Cheyenne in Vancouver is asking an interesting question on whether the female elephants will fight much like the males. And mostly the males will fight because they're trying to fight for dominance. But I have seen females against each other, you know, especially, you know, when what happens with the elephants is they have a matriarchal social structure, which means that there's a female that leads the herd of elephants. And sometimes when a matriarch is stepping down and a new matriarch is coming up, there can be some hostility between the matriarch during that change. But often with male elephants, they go through, I think, through something that's called musk, when they have a lot of hormones that are going through them. And you can tell they're going through musk when you can see stuff coming out of their ears, like wet substance. So there's quite a bit of hostility between these two elephants here, and I'm going to slowly creep forward to see if we can get a better visual of the elephants. But I want to be very, very, very safe in this situation, as there is a lot of hostility, so we must be careful. But isn't this exciting? Wow. So they've just headed. yes, Tiffany, we could hear the tusks banging together just earlier. Can you get, is there much of a picture there? You can just see them through the foliage. I'm gonna hold it at this position, everyone, just because there's no point in trying to get too close. This is something between them and not us. So getting in the middle of it will only cause issues for myself and Brian in the car. But that was just an incredible experience. I've actually never seen that before. You could really hear those tusks hitting each other. Hello. Morning. So you can see that they've calmed down just a little bit. And they're almost going in their different directions now. Jason just asked a very interesting question, and that was, why are elephants' hips so hairy? Sorry, not hips, lips. Lips. Yeah, so their chin, not their hips. No, I did hear that correctly, but it just came out my mouth a bit differently. It's a good question. You know, often we have hairs around us, and that helps us to feel and sense things a bit better. So it could be from a point of view of just trying to sense things a bit better. I mean, that would be my answer. It just helps with the feeling, you know, while we have hairs. Maybe it's to do with, you know, from eating things that are not so easy to eat. What else could it be from? You know, it's a very interesting question, Jess. But that was an incredible sighting that we had here with the elephants. I'm so interested to see what they're going to go and do now. Potentially we're going to head in different directions, but with that we're going to sit here for a bit to see what they do. Let's see what James is doing, and we'll see you just now.
It's breakfast time, everyone. It's breakfast time here in the Greater Kruger National Park, and for breakfast today, we'll be having berries. Jean-Andre, are you excited?
Very.
Now, these are the berries. Jean-Andre, sound more excited. These are the berries of the magic guarri bush, and they're actually really nice. They're one of the few fruits that are pretty tasty to eat, and I don't want to steal too much from the birds that are going to want to eat them, but because Gracie, aged 8, doesn't watch in the morning, we can get away with it. She doesn't like it when I eat things. She feels that I'm stealing from the animals, which I suppose I might be. But these, with a bit of a double cream, thick Greek yogurt, would be absolutely delicious. Jean-Andre, I will give them to you. Here you are. Put those all in your mouth at the same time. I'm not going to put that one in. They're quite sweet, but as with most fruit out here, excuse me, as with most fruit out here, they do have a slightly mouth-drying effect. And how are you feeling, Jean-Andre? He can't speak anymore, you see, that's why I gave it to you. Oh, no, it's just... He spat them into his hand because he's operating the camera, of course. That was absolutely disgusting. What they do is they've got like a sweet outer flesh, which most of the fruits do here, and then it's very kind of thin flesh, and then you get to the seed, and often there's a kind of very sort of tanniny layer around the seed, and I don't really know why that is, but I think that what you'll find is that many of the plants and many of the berries and things that we eat by default now and that we go and buy in the supermarkets probably initially were the same. And then they were selectively bred, not genetically modified, just selectively bred for those plants that didn't produce fruits that were quite so bitter. And slowly the flesh became thicker and thicker and thicker. So I think you'll find that the ancient ancestors of, say, a peach didn't have flesh anything like as thick as it is now. I'm sure it was much thinner before you got to the pip. Andre has completed his fruit. He put them back in his mouth. Unbelievable. There's no explaining some people, I have to tell you. I must confess I'm slightly disappointed by that. I thought it'd be nicer. You see, this is crazy. Eric, we may go black screen again if we do. Yes, you say that they would be nice with pancakes. Well, but for that kind of bitter taste, I mean, they look like they should be delicious blueberries, but they're not quite. They're just not quite there. And I wouldn't mind, I mean, doing a sort of project of selectively breeding them over the course of, say, 20 years and see if we couldn't create some really delicious guarri fruits. They're not bad, they're okay. In the context of general fruits out here, they're not too bad. The other fruit out here that's just starting to come into season now, and as I think most berries actually are edible in the winter months, or just before winter, the other fruit is the white berry bush, which tastes like a really nice sweet pea. And they should be around. I'll try and find some. I ate a few unripe ones the other day with Brian. They weren't very delicious at all, but given Gendre's Catholic tastes, i.e. he'll eat anything, we'll give him some of those and see what he thinks of them. Yes. James Richard, I agree with you completely. You say that Gendre's excitement is so overwhelming. It is, isn't it? He is. He's so overwhelmingly excited. Gendre, film these impala.
Riveting.
They're actually really close, these chaps. Young males, and they will feel a slight increase in testosterone as we go towards the May, and they'll have a kind of mini rut where they will fight with each other a little bit, but not anything like those big adults will. He's a little bit older than some of the others, so he's probably just about 2 years old, or just over 2 years old. So not quite into his full rutting season, full first rutting season yet. There he is. And around us you can hear a little bit more bird song. The drongos, fork-tailed the completely skipped my mind. Rattling testicular, there we go, going toot toot toot, taka 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 taka, toot toot toot, taka 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 taka. And I actually think there's a drongo no, there isn't. There's the testicular there. Gendre, we so seldom see them. We hear them all the time. He's at the top of that bush there. That's the rattling testicular. Can you see him, Gendre? No, he's still there. Right at the top of the bush there. There we go. Rattling testicular, everyone. A little brown job, as they're often known. But we seldom see them, and they're always calling. There we go. He's still there. You can't see him because he's behind a tree. I'm just going to quickly have a look. Yes, that is indeed the rattling testicular. And I hope you appreciate the binoculars through which I'm viewing the rattling testicular. You see them, Gendre? Right, let's move on. We're not too far from where Tingana was yesterday. And while we move along here, Sam has got some little carnivores to show you.
Dwarf mongoose, everyone. Look how sweet these little characters are. They really are such fun creatures to watch. And they are so cute. Check out them all popping out of their hole. getting some of that morning sunlight. It's been a cold couple days, and they're just basking in the sun. They are sweet. One of them just had a little yawn. Oh, sweet. Aren't you guys just the cutest little people? Well, not people, mongoose. They are dwarf mongoose, everyone. So you get a number of different types of mongoose, and these are the smallest. So the dwarf being smallest. And you often find them just in these little holes that sit here, and they've got a few different holes. So they're very smart, the dwarf mongoose. They will move homes every now and then just because it confuses the predators like owls. So today we see them here, and they most likely have another home just down the road. And by doing that, they have, you know, maybe like 13 or 14 different homes. And by doing that, that confuses the predator and makes it easier for them to survive in their groups. That's another important fact, that some mongoose are solitary, some of them are actually, they live in gregarious groups like the dwarf mongoose. One of the solitary ones is the white-tailed mongoose, which I've only ever seen once. Beautiful mongoose that has a very, very white tail at the end. But these little mongooses, oh man, they're so cool. So sweet. Long time no see, dwarfs. It's been a long time since I've seen you guys, and you guys are so beautiful. Look at the color of the brown. It's just shining in that sunlight. And they like to eat little insects. They'll eat scorpions. They'll eat little insects that are on the ground. And they actually, mongoose have a very interesting relationship. You know, I think it's the hornbill, a mutual relationship between hornbills and mongooses. I think it's a hornbill. I'm going to have to I have to look at my facts a bit later. But they'll often share, like a bird will alarm call at the mongoose to say that there's a predator coming, and in return, the mongoose will help dig out the insects to help the bird feed. So that's a beautiful relationship that we can learn from the natural world. You can tell that, I mean, once you get to understand the natural world a bit better, you can see that everything lives in relationship to one another. It's not living for the individual. I mean, of course, you get the sense that, say, for a leopard is living for itself in its environment. But really, if you start to understand the ecosystem a bit better, you'll see that everything is in relationship, even the leopard on its landscape, because the leopard will regulate the species that help allow the grasslands to grow. So in theory, the leopard has a very, very important relationship with that of the savanna and the grassland itself. So these mongooses will have a very, very important relationship to play with other species in this beautiful, beautiful ecosystem. And you can see this, they all got their heads out, and all those different eyes will be looking for predators while they move around. But you can see they're also cleaning themselves of all the little parasites they might have picked up. But this really is a beautiful sighting of these sweet little dwarf mongooses. They're so, so, so sweet. Once when I was a child, I found a mongoose that had been, well, my parents' friends actually found a mongoose. I think it was a water mongoose, which is also a solitary animal. And we looked after it, and we had so much fun with this little mongoose. But one day, a predator came and killed it. And so that's often a story that you'll hear with different types of, different animals that you take from the wild and you domesticate them. They often will get killed in ways that you cannot expect. I was super sad, very, very sad. I mean, I've had a few. I also had a little squirrel. His name was Monty. He was like my best friend, little Monty, and I was like around 8 years old. And back in the day when I was a youngster, my twin brother and I used to listen to or watch little programs on TV, such called Teletubbies. We were watching Teletubbies one day, and I had the squirrel, and he was moving around me, jumping around me, and all of a sudden he jumped on the floor, and the door was open a little bit, and my father's Rottweiler came into the room and just ate my squirrel. It was really, 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 really sad day of my life. I don't mean to share that with you, but I was really quite upset because I really did love that squirrel. But yeah. Yeah. It's just the way the world works sometimes. And I'm glad I could have told a story about Monty. He would have loved that, He was a very positive squirrel. But while I carry on talking about my positive squirrels, we're going to go and see how James is doing. See you later.
Everybody, there are 2 Egyptian gooses, and they are swimming in what I think is just a very beautiful little setting. We're at Treehouse Dam here, and this is a rather sort of countrified, less wild scene than one might expect here. 2 ducks swimming gently around a pond, which I suppose is something you might expect to see in the British countryside, perhaps, as opposed to the wilds of Africa. But we do have these marvelously peaceful little scenes from time to time, and that is a couple of Egyptian geese. They will have hopefully produced some little babies here over the course of the next little while. I think they're fairly non-seasonal breeders, so maybe they'll have some youngsters. Just having a little bit of water there, and I don't know if you can see it now. The light is fading, unfortunately, going behind a cloud, but they've got the most beautiful golden yellow eyes. Can't really see that, can you, Jean-Louis? Mm-hmm. Are you at full zoom? Mm-hmm. So you can sort of see it from there, but I've never noticed it before, probably because I wasn't looking through binoculars of the standard. Wonderful. Okay, we're not far from where Tingana was, so let's go across there and see if we can't find him. Something truly hilarious apparently happened in the final control just before we went live, and all I got from the final control when they told us that we were going live was live, and so then we started speaking about the geese. So I'm not sure what happened. I'm not sure what Sam said that was so funny. Here's the leopard. Here are his tracks, Jean-Louis. Let's just reverse slowly. I suspect quite strongly he would have gone down towards the water to have a drink. I'm just going to drive around the edge of the dam here, and these might not be that fresh. Errol, while we do this, let's just do a brief investigation of this area. You're asking a question that I think is on many people's minds, and that is, would we ever dart him and then, sort of treat his injuries? And the answer is no, we wouldn't. Unless they were caused by an anthropogenic effect, i.e. unless they were caused by a man-made injury, it's unlikely that we would ever do anything. So I think this was probably a hyena that got him, and I think because of that, we would more than likely just leave him to sort of suffer whatever fate nature had intended. And now, although the injury looked quite nasty yesterday, like I say, the animals out here are tremendously resilient. And so the chances of him being okay and getting through whatever injury it is are actually very strong, very high. Now, what I'm expecting to see is just some spots under the bushes here. Mainly because I don't think he would have gone very far. So let's just drive slowly around here. He won't lie too close to the water because, of course, lots of other animals may come down to drink. But he probably would like to be around here. If that is his tracks, I'm pretty sure they are his tracks. It's a male leopard not far from where he was yesterday. And then he may well have headed back up that drainage line. So let's just keep an eye out here. We will go back to where he was, just in case those were from an earlier time, but I think those were pretty fresh, especially as we've had a very windy time of it. Okay, we're going to spend a bit of time looking around here. Let's go across to Sam. He's at an interesting termite mound. I hope it's as funny as the last one.
Here we are with a termite mound. Just before I get on to the termite mound, I just want to say that if my sister's watching, I'm really sorry about leaving that door open when we were 10 years old and letting the Rottweiler in and losing our favorite little Monty. If you are listening, I think you are listening today, JD. But here we are with our termite mound, and it's a beautiful looking termite mound. You can see that it's an active termite mound. The way in which we can understand that it's active is because you can see that there's dirt that's been collected and put. So you can see a big difference between the color of that over there to the color of here. And often with an inactive termite mound, you'll find that there are holes in the termite mound in very, very significant places. So this is an active termite mound, and termite mounds are exceptionally interesting. You know, they're home to termites, of course, which are, you know, you get different types of termites. But the one thing that's super interesting is the way in which the fungus-growing termites hold these structures. And these structures, the design aspect of these structures are incredible. The way in which the termites have built the structure is incredible, and I'll tell you why. It's because they are trying to regulate the temperature at around 32 degrees Celsius. So that's incredible. The reason why they're doing that is because below, where the fungus-growing substance at the bottom is, they are trying to regulate that temperature at 32 degrees, and that'll help look after the food. So this is basically a structure like a building where they have their own built-in air conditioning. So our buildings don't have that. We have to go and buy air conditioner and bring it in and then to cool our buildings. But we can really learn from a termite mound the way in which they regulated it at 32 degrees Celsius. That is a lot more efficient, it's a lot more sustainable, and it's better for our environment. And it's actually been copied and replicated in Harare with a building. It's called the Eastgate Building. So hashtag Safari Live and tell us something interesting about building, structure, if you're interested in biomimicry and the way in which we might be able to learn about different other structures within our human-built environment. So that's an incredible little bit of innovation, and we can see that, you know, we can just walk outside our door to understand that the genius of the natural world can help us become sustainable and more efficient in our own lives. So I'm just going to start the car. Whee! I'm going to put my earpiece back in my ear so that I'd be able to hear your lovely questions from around the world. Welcome back, everyone. Safari Dean, fantastic question. The question was, do we ever look at weaknesses in the natural world to see if we can learn from within our human-built design? And you know, I haven't actually thought of it in that context. You know, everything out here has been built to the point where it can be efficient and become resilient in its ecosystem. So it's actually a strength. Most things, you know, if it seems like a weakness, it has to have some sort of strength to it. But it's a difficult answer because I've only ever really looked at something, whether it be a tree, and understood the way in which water goes from the bottom of the tree all the way to the top, or the way in which the tree has a Fibonacci sequence. If anyone understands what the Fibonacci sequence is, if we think about a little tree, we can understand that it comes out towards the sun in a spiral like this. So if you can imagine, the tree is coming out and it's trying to capture as much sunlight as it can in order to bring food to the tree. And at the same time, it has like a funnel. If you look at most leaves, leaves are like this, and they're collecting the rainwater and bringing it down to its root systems, and therefore making the tree a lot more efficient and sustainable. So Safari Dean, I really admire that question, just because it's looking at it at another angle. You know, what are the weaknesses of the natural world that we can learn from? If you have something in your garden, something that you've seen that is a weakness that we can actually learn from, I would really like to hear what you have to say, Safari Dean. Thank you for that. With that, we can continue forward. And I just want to, I think it would be important to explain where the term biomimicry comes from. It comes from a lady called Janine Benyus, who coined it. Janine Benyus, who is from America. You can find her, look her up. She is the person that coined it. So she's incredible. I've never met Janine, but I've read many of her books, and I really, really enjoyed her way and her perspective of understanding how we might see the natural world in a different way, a different perspective. And I don't know if you guys have much heard of Gregory Bateson. He's another person that has influenced my way of seeing ecology and the natural environment, because he saw everything in relationship to one another. I'm not sure if this is going to make sense to you, but if you look at my hand, you can just see the hand. When you see the hand, you just see the hand, but you don't see what makes the hand, which is the spaces in between. So what is it in relation to that helps it make it a hand, you know? And if this doesn't make sense, it's okay. I'm going to try and make it create more sense. What Gregory Bateson was saying was that the world is in relationship with each other, and that my hand is in relationship to the environment around it because of the space in between that makes it look like a hand. So when we look at everything, we can look at it from another angle. It's always important to see that, to try and understand how relationships are and how ecosystems work and how butterflies are in the ecosystem, and how a flap of a butterfly's wing on the other side of the world can influence something on the other side. So it's hugely interesting learning about other people's perspective of the natural world. Andy and Julia, hello and good morning to you. I'm so excited that you asked me this question about mycelium. They're asking, please tell us more about mycelium, and I'm glad you like it. It's something that I'm fascinated by it, you know, and from what I understand is that it's basically telling us that plants are intelligent. Plants are a lot more intelligent than we've given them credit for in the past, at least that I gave them credit for in the past. And learning about mycelium has really helped me understand that the interconnectedness of the natural world, and how the fungus connects parts of the ecosystems and helps spread nutrients. And if you have a look at mycelium, if you look it up on Google, you'll see it as a white little fungus growing that grows between the plants, and it's much like the internet of the ground that helps the ecosystem to become a lot more resilient. And as I was saying yesterday, you know, we only know that much about the world outside than the world inside. So what is the world beneath our feet, and how does it work, and how is it acting? And you know, obviously millions and millions of years ago we started with bacteria. So how did bacteria then grow and innovate itself into something new? And then how did it then innovate itself? So I'm just going to, just while we're here, we have a termite mound just to the left of us, which we can significantly see that is not active. Why is it not active? Is because of the holes in the termite mound to show that it's not. So the one that we were with a little bit earlier was closed up and patched up, and you could quite clearly see the difference in the soil coloration that helped show that as well. So this is an inactive termite mound. Just thought it'd be good to show you the relationship of that. But going back to mycelium, the natural world is a lot more intelligent than what we understand it, and the more that we immerse ourselves into that way of seeing, the better that we can just enjoy this planet, because we're not alone in this world. And that's been the most powerful thing for me over the last couple of years is sometimes you feel isolated and you feel like you're on your own, whether you're an introvert or an extrovert. Sometimes I'm quite an introvert, so I come into myself and I feel like I'm alone. But since I've learned about the natural world, I've realized that there's so much more than just me, and I can connect with trees, I can connect with birds and flowers, and I'm not alone. This planet is so full of beauty and so full of life that it's just so extraordinary when you start to see how beautiful everything is on this planet. And we live on this huge planet that's in the middle of space, and the stars, and understanding our relationship to our closest star. I mean, does anyone know what our closest star is in the night sky? Have you ever taken the time to have a look up there and be like, how far away is our closest star from our planet? As we know, the sun is the closest star to us, but then the next closest star is Alpha Centauri. I mean, Alpha Centauri, and the amount of light years that is away from us is something like 4.3 light years, which means that it takes, when I look up at the night sky and I look at Alpha Centauri, that light took 4.3 years just to get to my eyes, okay? So we know that is quite a long time. So just to put that into another piece of perspective, it would take us 25,000 years in a rocket to travel to Alpha Centauri. So that is just one way in which we can see how big this universe is and how significant life is. I mean, like the universe, it blows my mind, because it makes me feel how a lot more significant we are, in terms of in the universe, but how insignificant we are at the same time. And if I just put my finger up into the sky like that, we can tell that just that area where my nail is something like 10,000 galaxies that are within that circumference of my nail, which is just fascinating. The fact that there's over 10,000 galaxies in that nail. But on that, there's not much stars to talk about in the daytime. We're going to go and see what James is doing. See you later.
Now, we found some female tracks going up the road where you left us, but they were old, and then there are male and female tracks on this road that we're on now. But I think the female tracks are from when Tingana and Tundi were walking along here a little while back. Yes, okay, I'm actually able to show this to you. Here. This is what I think's going on. I am struggling, I must say, to interpret what is exactly what's happening. So that one you can't see; it's too close. You can see this one, Chandri, right?
Yes.
There's a male track there. Now, if you look back a little bit, you might also be able to see this track here. And it's much less distinct, and especially in this light, it's probably a little bit difficult. But a beetle has walked over the top of that one, indicating that it's not perhaps as fresh as some of the others. But that's definitely a male, but there are one or two much smaller ones along here that are from a female. And I think they're a bit older, and I do know that Tundi and Tingana walked along this road in the midst of their sort of courtship a little while back. But I think that he's come along here too last night. I think he's headed to the water, he's had a drink. We did check where he was. We're going back sort of We've done a loop. Treehouse Dam is over there. We did a loop around. We checked exactly where he was last night. The tracks eventually popped out onto this road that go back towards Treehouse Dam. And I think that he probably had a drink not too long after we saw him yesterday evening. He would have waited for the cover of darkness and then moved off down the road here. And I actually think, you know what, I'm seeing every so often, I'm seeing a small track. I wonder if it isn't because he's limping and he's just not quite putting his foot down properly. And that might be why we're seeing a smaller track that sometimes looks like it's a female. Definitely some female tracks further up the way there, but this is definitely a male. So this is definitely Tingana coming down here probably last night. Now, let's keep an eye out in the trees. Maybe he got lucky and killed something. Let's also keep an eye out in the undergrowth here, just for that subtle golden yellow sheen with a little bit of black spotting. And Annie, very good question. I mean, we had a similar inquiry yesterday, and we know that leopards have got the most catholic diets of any predator out here. In other words, they will eat just about anything. And Annie, you say, would he resort to catching much smaller things like insects if he couldn't find anything large to eat, or if he was too injured to catch anything big? Absolutely he would. Leopards are able to do that, probably far more than any other animals are. They will eat frogs, insects, fish, antelope, rodents, one-horned impala. There is a one-horned impala which does not look particularly disturbed by life, indicating that Tingana is either about to leap onto his back or not around here. Come on, Wendy, we want to see the impala. No, not going to work, is it, John? Oh, there we go. That's not Nelson. Nelson, I fear me, has met his end. I haven't seen him for a long time. And he, of course, is the one-horned, one-eyed impala. Come on, Wendy. There we go. Ooh, very nice inquiry here. Now we know that these impala, one of whom is standing next to us here, this is actually quite interesting. We know that they are going into the rut now. They're starting to chase each other around. They're starting to herd the females. But look at this one and look under his tail. His testicles have not dropped yet. Now that's either an indicator that he's very young or that he has not been affected as much by the changing day length as some of the others. So James Richard, your question is, why is it that some of them go into this kind of rutting time earlier than others? How is it that some of them have started to rut now and others will only do it at the right time, sort of in the middle of May? And James, well, initially what causes the increase in testosterone is a change in day length. And why some of them should have slightly differing responses to the day length, I don't know. And I don't know if it would be consistent. So if perhaps this chap, you can see he's clearly not being affected by it. If his testosterone levels had gone up, his scrotum would have dropped down, his testicles would be much more obvious. And his neck would probably be a bit thicker by this stage. That hasn't happened to him yet. Will it be the same next year? I don't know. It's quite interesting. A very good question. So I'm not sure if if it's the same males who get to mate every year, if the same males come into this time earlier than the others every year. I don't know. It's a very good question. Anyway, let's continue our little search for Tingana. And there is a lot of rutting that goes on around here. And of course we know that in the mammal kingdom, nothing creates fightings amongst men more than women and females. And Monique, you're in London. There is a virtual starling. Just over there, Jean, if you don't mind. Sorry. Not that. That's called throwing the cameraman under the bus. Sorry about that. Monique, you want to know about the nyala and do they fight? You say they look almost too dignified. They do, and they are almost too dignified. What you find is that they will normally just do a sort of dance around each other, this very balletic and dignified, slow dressage dance around each other. But if that doesn't have the effect, the desired effect of chasing off a rival, they will then fight. And the fight is impressive to watch. It is an incredible, I was describing it earlier, it looks like two fencers having a go at each other. Tap, tap, tapping their horns. Was that a little grasshopper he took away there? What was it? A piece of grass? For a nest, perhaps. Andre's not, he's not even speaking to me anymore. Let's drive down this road, see if we can't spot the male leopard. So, Monique, yes, they do fight. And I can never remember the term. What is the term for the sword that the fencer uses? It's called a... Come on. It's in my mind somewhere. Somewhere in the recesses of my mind I remember the name. Foil. That's right, it's a foil. Haha. You didn't remember that, did you, Jean-Andre? Not that you would have told me, because you're not speaking to me anymore. But, so if you watch a nyala fighting, it looks like two fencers with rapidly moving foils, tap, 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 tapping against each other, and then eventually they'll find a gap, and they'll charge in, and they bash heads and lock together. It's a vicious and astounding and very kind of moving thing to see, Moni. But it doesn't happen often, you're right. They are normally far too dignified. Now, the tracks don't come along this road. We'll go back along the road, the other side of this drainage. I suspect what he did was he had his drink and then probably moved into the drainage line here to seek out shelter there. You can see that what I thought was breaking, I thought the cloud was going to disappear. Well, it hasn't really. It's kind of come over again. The wind has dropped slightly, but not as much as we'd have liked it to. Chandra, you haven't seen a leopard, have you? You will click at least. I know you're not talking to me, but you will at least click or wave. And I always struggle to say this Twitter handle without having a bit of a laugh. One second. Okay, we've got an inquiry about the wild dogs and if they're around. And the inquiry comes from, I don't know why I find it so funny this morning, from someone called Brazo's Yak. There we go, I said it. Brazo's Yak, you want to know where it is that the wild dogs are, and have we heard anything about them? No, we haven't for the last little while. I'm not sure where they are, Brazo's Yak. They were coming south about 4 days ago, but that seems to have, well, whatever southerly movement they were making has not continued on to Djuma or Arathusa. Wonderful Twitter handles that we get here. Nyala there. Trying to put the camera on the nyala. We've got another question from someone called James's Hat. It's actually a really good question. Excuse me, sorry everybody. I'll hold it together eventually. James's Hat. Your inquiry, I don't know if I can answer because I think it's a good one. Why is it that reptiles, or not so many reptiles, why is it that mammals seem to be so dull-coloured? Although you could hardly describe those nyala as dull, but I do see what you mean. They're a kind of camouflaged red. And why are they that colour when so many birds are so obviously colourful, and indeed some reptiles are the same? Why are no mammals colourful like that? And I think the answer has got largely to do with camouflage and protection from predators. I think you find that birds that are brightly coloured are perhaps not as badly affected by the potential of being attacked by predators as would an obviously coloured mammal. Now, why would that be the case? Why is it that a lilac-breasted roller with its 7 different wonderful colours would be slightly less likely to be eaten by an avian predator, a bird predator, than would, say, a nyala by a ground-based predator? Such a good question, and I don't know. I think that you'll find, I mean, it's easy to tell why it would be easier for a ground-based predator to catch something like a nyala if it was the colour of lilac and blue. But why on earth would it be better for a bird to be coloured? I suspect it's got something to do with the fact that a bird is able to fly. It's easier, it can protect itself better. I suspect it's also got to do with the fact that many of the birds, predators are actually, they're not colourblind, so they can see colour anyway. That colour that you can see there to a lion very much blends in because they see in shades of green and red, which is, so that will be difficult for a lion to see. And I don't know, I'm going to have to think about that, but thank you very much for that. I love questions like that that make me think and that I can't really answer. Right, so we've had a talk of colourful birds. This goes across to some colourful butterflies. James's hat, enjoy those. I'll continue looking for the leopard and thinking about your question.
A beautiful butterfly just next to my car. We've spotted. I have absolutely no idea what the name of this butterfly is, but it doesn't really matter at the moment because I'm just looking at it and it's just got such beautiful colorations. I think that it's white as it opens its wings. Hopefully it'll open its wings again, but it really is a magnificent butterfly. And if anyone knows the name of this butterfly, please will you hashtag Safari Live and inform me on the name of this butterfly, because I'm really not too sure. Me and Brian are a little bit baffled by the name of this butterfly, but it really is beautiful. And Brent here, Smith, is really, really good with his butterflies, so I'm going to try and remember. I'm taking a picture of it, and I'll see if Brent knows it, if no one else knows it. He's a big fan of the butterfly, and I am too. Well, I'm wanting to. I love butterflies, birds. Butterfly and birds definitely are something that I'm going to be taking a big liking to with Safari Live. Wow. Hopefully it'll fly off in just a little bit and we can get a really great sighting of this butterfly. Just while we're chatting about it, well, while we were sitting with the male nyala earlier, I don't know if everyone was there with us or have just joined us now, but we sat with a male nyala earlier, and I've just been told, well, I heard that James was with a female, which is incredible. I'm so glad everyone got to see the difference between the male and the female. But coming back to the butterfly, wow, you can see that white stripe, quite significant. Siberia Zumi, I've got a big fondness for everything, both great and small. But if I think about the things that I enjoy the most in terms of the small things, and something that I love a lot are you know, both in Cape Town, you know, you get really small plants like ericas and little birds that will come in, like little sunbirds that come in and drink out of the ericas, and that's probably my favorite sighting to see when it comes to small things. But in terms of reptiles and small invertebrates, you know, we were sitting with a shongololo yesterday, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. But now, even just sitting with this butterfly, and now you can quite clearly see those two little white spots on the side of that wing. Incredible looking butterfly. And I'm growing. My fondness is growing for the smaller invertebrates of the Sabi Sands. When I was here, during my training a couple of years ago, I didn't have the time to really stop and look at the smaller things, because it was actually a little bit more important for my survival to learn more about how the leopards move and the way in which the elephants are. So I never really had the time to learn about that. But now that my knowledge base has increased by quite a lot, well, a bit more, I can now sit down with these beautiful butterflies and get to know them a bit better and see what their life cycles are like, and you know, what type of caterpillar this came from. So if anyone knows actually what the name of this is and what the caterpillar that it came from, please hashtag Safari Live and help us get a better reading on this butterfly. Great. Spectacular view of that butterfly. We've had such an incredible morning, from the nyala to the little dwarf mongooses that were running around, to the termite mound, and learning a little bit more about our ecology, the universe, and both things great and small. With that, I'm going to say thank you to the butterfly for that extremely incredible sighting. I hope that you have a great day, Mr. Butterfly, or Mr. or Mrs. Butterfly. Wow. So I'm learning my roads a little bit better. It's been quite difficult learning all the roads, but we are now on, I think it's Hippo Pools. We've just gone past Hippo Pools Dam, which was looking quite full. I mean, compared to the last time I was here, it was completely dry. Nothing. It was barren. And now I'm driving around, and the foliage has grown. The green is very, very luminous, and the waters are filled, and we need to go underneath the silver cluster leaf. Angie in West Cotton, am I a reptile fan? Yes, I am a huge reptile fan. You know, of course, you know, it takes time to appreciate everything in its context, but you know, I'm so interested by the way in which reptiles are, in terms of their, you know, they're cold-blooded, most of them, and understanding how they are what we call ectothermic, which means they get their energy from the sunlight, and understanding how they collect their energy. I find that very fascinating. I mean, from a biomimicry point of view, we've learned about certain ways in which animals will, you know, connect to their landscape to try and collect sunlight. It's fascinating. I mean, two little examples with a scorpion. A scorpion is fascinating by the way in which it actually survives in Namibia and different types of landscapes that are very, very dry. And basically, it has these, well, dry and windy. So you just try and picture a really, really windy day in a desert. And you just see a scorpion running past you, okay? What's so interesting and so efficient of the scorpion is that it has these little nodules on its back. So it's on a flat surface. It's got all these bumps. And these bumps help the wind to not, or it just makes it easier for them to walk and survive in that environment. So I'm fascinated by how, that was a little bit of a stop the car. It's okay, we can always just start it again. So I'm fascinated by how reptiles and other organisms survive in their environments. I mean, there's another beetle that's in the desert areas that is able to survive, and what it actually does, it's so fascinating. The beetle, you know, to collect water in order to survive at about, you know, late in the evening when the dew comes to set in, it'll lift the back of its, you know, the back of the beetle to a certain position which collects all the dew. So actually what's happening is This water is being collected by the dew, and that will help sustain the beetle in the very dry conditions of the Namibian or of the deserts. And that design of the back of that beetle is actually being replicated in parts of the Sahara to try and bring water to communities. So incredible. We know that there's a problem with water worldwide, and we can go to a little beetle in the Saharan desert and ask it, how do you collect your water? And by doing so, we can learn how to look after and sustain ourselves, which is fantastic news. Yeah. Chain B. Yes. I knew that the question was that I know in the Arctic that the sunflower cannot follow, it doesn't grow there because it cannot follow the sun, and it's always sunny, or it's always winter in the Arctic, so it can't do that. So I knew that the sunflower actually follows the sun, but I didn't know that it didn't grow there, which is great. Thanks for sharing that with me, Jen. It's fascinating how sunflowers are able to follow the direction of the sunlight during the day in order to maximize its efficiency to sustain itself. So thank you for sharing that, Jen. Incredible how life works on this planet. Incredible. I'm still yet to go to the Arctic. That's one of the places in the world that I'll find my feet. Hopefully my feet can get to one day, unless I can swim there. But yeah, swimming there is going to be quite tough. Probably be quite cold at the same time. Ooh. Wow. Wow. Wow, guys, beautiful. So on the right of us, we have female kudu. So you'll often find the groups of kudu will be together. But look at it, how beautiful that little yaksa is that we're looking in the screen. Look at those ears, they're so big. It's like they can literally hear anything in any direction. That's what helps them so much when they're in the secretive areas where they can pick up on those different sounds. Look, she's moving her ears in different, she heard something and she's feeling uncomfortable, so she's going to leave. But that's one of the most important, you know, that hearing is so important for them. Wow, beautiful animals. You can see those stripes on the back of them. And the males are a little bit bigger, and they have huge horns when you see a kudu. Fantastic sighting of the female kudu there. Gregarious group of them. The question that I had a little bit earlier was, you know, how long does it take for a termite mound to be built? Cassandra, and that's a great question. I'm actually not quite sure, because we were just looking at a termite mound over here, and this termite mound over there is quite old, and so, you know, I'm actually not sure at how long it takes for a termite mound to be built. It would be a fascinating thing to actually film over a long period of time to see how it's built. So that's a great question. But what's fascinating about termite mounds at the same time is that they provide such an advantage for the bush. You know, you'll find all types of predators will come and stand on top of a termite mound and look over the savanna and to see what types of animals they can see. You know, in context of the termite mound, I'd love to share a story with you. It's actually my favorite story in the bushveld, that, you know, in the savanna, where I was taught, you know, when I was tracking when I was doing my training. And basically what happened was I was walking the southern perimeter of one of the reserves I was working at, and I found tracks of cheetah. And I was so excited. And as I was walking the tracks, I came around one of the guarri bushes, which I'll show you a guarri bush a bit later. It's a small, thick bush, and I came around the bush, and two beautiful sub-adult cheetah were sitting on the termite mound, and they hadn't seen me. And it was incredible. I just sat behind this bush and watched these beautiful cheetah on a termite mound looking over the savanna. And I sat there for about it must have been less than, I was really lucky because the wind wasn't going in my direction, so they couldn't smell me, basically. And so I could spend a couple of seconds with them, but as soon as they saw me, they looked at me, and I just thought they would run away. But they didn't. They didn't run away. They were very, very calm. And, that is, like, if I think about the one experience of my life that has changed me, was that. And the cheetahs just sat there, and I sat there with cheetah for about 2-3 minutes before I called it in on the radio and told them that I just located these sub-adult cheetahs. So termites provide a very crucial role to the ecosystem. Not only do they provide food to many of the species, but they provide vantage points where they could look over the savanna and try and find kills out there. So it's been an incredible journey learning a little bit more about the termite mounds. Hopefully we can learn a little bit more in the future. With that, let's go and see what James is up to. See you later.
So I've just come down sort of towards this drainage line here to see if I couldn't find any further tracks. There were 1 or 2 tracks along the road, quite indistinct, which indicates to me that they've had a whole night of the wind blowing over them. So unless he's gone to ground pretty close to where we last saw him, which I think is unlikely, that was the door closing, I think it's unlikely given that he has walked down here, and obviously walked down here quite soon after we last saw him. Anyway, while I was doing that, I saw these beautiful white flowers, and I wanted to pick one for you, but I'm not going to because there aren't many of them. Sorry, Jean-Andre, he's now pulling a face. But I'm going to smell one. Oh, it is the most wonderful smell, sort of a subtle jasmine-y type smell. And, I mean, if there'd been a couple more than 3, I probably would have picked one. But there weren't that many, so I didn't pick a bloom for Jean-Andre. And apparently some of you are asking if Jean-Andre is perhaps tripping after he ate his gori bushes, or gori berries. He might be tripping, but that's certainly not a result of the berries that I gave him. I'm not tripping. There's actually very little out here that can be used as a hallucinogen. I think there's something called WildEarth. Dacher is the Afrikaans term for marijuana. You can apparently smoke smoke the roots or something, and that will give you a little bit of a high. I have not tried that. And there are mushrooms, obviously. There are definitely mushrooms out here that have a psychedelic effect, but not much. None of the berries out here that I know of will produce any kind of narcotic effect. Jean-Andre's genetics, faulty as they are what give him the slightly narcotic effect that is his general demeanor. Now, the next place to check for tracks will be this junction where we are now. And I don't see any, to be honest. So let's say we did come down that road. I didn't see any tracks when we first came down it. So maybe he headed up in here. I don't know. We haven't got too much left of the drive. So we will... Oh, there he is. He's on the road going up here. Okay. We'll just drive up here, see if we can't spot him. Tracking a leopard in these conditions is not easy at all. So there is a huge amount of blind luck involved. So if we find him, we will be lucky, but at least we know we're in the general vicinity. And we also know that he's moving, and that's great, because that means he's probably not quite as badly injured as we thought he was. Jean-Andre, look over there quick. Thank you. I just wanted to change my hat, everyone, and I didn't want Jean-Andre to show you my bald spot. Here we are. Am I plugged in? No, I'm not plugged in. Sorry, I wondered why I wasn't hearing Kirsten McLennan-Smith and her deeply KwaZulu-Natal accent in my ear. There we go. I'm plugged in again. And people are making this stuff up. Somebody called Safari Cheesecake has just asked a question, and it's a good one. The Twitter handle is wonderful. Thank you. Keep them coming. They really do amuse me profoundly. I'm going to go down. Am I? No, I'm not. I'm going to keep going up this road. Safari Cheesecake. You want to know about keystone species and whether there are any plants that could be described as keystone species. Well, let's just quickly go back for those who perhaps are unfamiliar with the term keystone species. A keystone species is basically a species that if you were to remove it, would create a collapse of the ecosystem or create a really profound change in the ecosystem. And it's difficult to describe. I mean, it's kind of a continuum, so it's not always obvious what would be a keystone species. There might be a bacteria out here that if you were to remove it from the system would completely collapse it. Elephants are an obvious example, and Safari Cheesecake, you used elephants as an example. If the elephants were not in this area at all, the vegetation would change profoundly. I think it would get a lot thicker. Certainly the trees may get a lot taller, and there would be more tall trees that wouldn't, because the trees would get pushed over by elephants. I think you could describe human beings as a keystone species, but Safari Cheesecake, your question is an interesting one in that, are there any plants that could be described as keystone species? And I'm going to say, not obviously. If you were to remove, for example, all of the marula trees in the area, if they were to collapse, if the marula population were to collapse completely, would it make a massive difference to all the other plants and animals out here? Well, no, I don't think it would. There aren't any animals that, well, I'm sure there's the odd specialized insect that eats only marulas, but there is certainly no browsing antelope or browsing large herbivores that I know of that only eat marulas. Would it affect the elephants? Yes. I mean, they do enjoy the fruit and they do get a huge amount of nutrition from the fruit during the course of the summer months. But would it cause some kind of collapse in the population? No, they just substitute it with something else in the diet. So I'm not sure that there are any plants out here that could be described as keystone species. Maybe you could describe some of the fig trees as keystone species in that were they to disappear, then the associated wasp species that cannot survive without them would also disappear. But when we talk about a keystone species, it basically does mean a species that affects the entire ecosystem. So elephants, an obvious one. Lions would make a difference. Human beings would make a difference. Were you to remove the termites, but you remember now, termites are not only one species. Termites are many hundreds of different species. Were you to remove the fungus, the termite, the mound-growing Macrotermes natalensis? Yes, I would say they are a keystone species. That would change the ecosystem profoundly. Wonderful question, that. Thank you. It's a really good one. I still haven't come up with any decent answer for James's hat's question about why it is that no mammals are brightly colored like birds. Safe to say that I think it's probably got everything to do with predation. So we're going to look around here, see if we can't find further tracks of an elephant. Before we do that, I'm going to move this rock. And I'll tell you why I'm going to move this rock. This rock, as many of you know, most of you know now because you've heard it a few times, was placed here by elephants. Elephants like to play with rocks sometimes, but every time I come past it, I'm tempted to retell you the story that Jamie told you some time back. So I'm just going to move it quickly out of the way. It is not a light rock. There we go. Now I shan't be tempted to repeat myself and bore you all to tears. I'm seeing stars, Jean-Marie. It's very pretty. I'm genuinely seeing stars. I think I overstrained myself slightly. There's one now just above my... Yeah, there we go. There we go, they've gone now. There we go. I'm plugged in, Kirsten. That's a very bizarre feeling. I think it happens when the blood pressure drops. Now, those birds were very cross about something. There's a predator in here, a snake perhaps. The first thing to look at is that crested barbet, beautiful crested barbet there. Red and orange and yellow. Oh, and a rattling cisticola there at the bottom with him. No, it's not a rattling cisticola, that's tawny flanked prinia, I think. It is a tawny flanked prinia. It's got a little caterpillar in its mouth. I think this is just a bird party, a feeding party. See that? That is awesome. Oh, that's fantastic. It's just beating that caterpillar to death, probably knocking off or breaking up the exoskeleton, which will make it easier to digest. But you can hear a few of those prinias in there. Now, a few of you, while we watched that prinia eating his caterpillar, a few of you were saying, are birds not colored like that for attraction? Yes, to a large extent they are. But the question remains, why is it that no mammal has developed in the same way? Although we do have sexually dimorphic mammals, like the nyala, they're not colorful. They are still camouflaged, even though they're very different colors from the females. Why are they not colorful? And, I mean, if you look at a peacock's tail or that paradise wider's tail, they are an encumbrance to the male bird, and so they're an indicator of fitness to the female. If it can survive having such an encumbrance, then it must have good genes and good strength. I suspect you'll find that in the mammal world, let me see if the prinia is sitting on this bit of log here. In the mammal world, everyone, that's wonderful. In the mammal world, what you find is that that kind of encumbrance, that kind of obvious coloration that would make you more obvious to predators would be impossible to maintain. You'd just be eaten. So I think because possibly the predatory pressure is greater on the mammals, they have not evolved that kind of coloration. That would be my guess. Very nice. Thank you for that. Let's head across to Sam. He's got some more colourful things to show you.
And I saw what they were looking at. We live. Hello everyone. Here we are. I've got a big bottle of water, as you can see, and I've got lots of cords hanging out of me, which is not very good. So I'm just going to put those in my pockets. Water, electricity is never a good thing to put together. But do you know what's good to put together? It's water and a beautiful flower. So I'm gonna over here we have a beautiful flower, and it's called the devil's thorn. If I'm mistaken, it should be the devil's thorn. I'm just going to break off a little piece here. So I'm just going to get a good shot there. Have a look at that beautiful flower, everyone. So this morning we've had such an incredible morning in terms of designs and looking at just different colorations, from the nyala that we saw this morning to the kudu and that beautiful butterfly, and now we're sitting with a devil's thorn, which is definitely one of the most beautiful flowers in the bush. And the reason why I picked up and took a little piece off this is because in my training, if I remember correctly, that it makes quite a funny substance. I wish you could be here with me to put this into your hands and see what it does. So what I'm going to do is take a little piece of this. I'm going to rub it on my hand. I'm going to pour some water on my hand. This could be really awkward if it's the wrong flower. It's the right flower, everyone. Fantastic news. So when you use the plant of the devil's thorn, it makes a very, 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 very lubricant. That's the right word. It's a very, very good lubricant that they used many, many years ago for different things. And so it just came into my memory, and I wish you could be here and I could rub it into your hands and you could feel this lubrication, It's very, very significant. It's really nice on the hands as well. I almost want to do it again, but I'm not going to kill all the plants just so that I could have lubricants all over my hand. So that was the devil thorn. Very, very beautiful flower with a lubricant part of it. And with that, I'm going to get back in my vehicle with a big bottle of water, and we're going to carry on. You know what we haven't seen a lot of this morning is the different types of bird species. And I know the viewers, well, you out there would like to be seeing more birds and helping me get this bird list together, because it definitely needs to grow a little bit more, and so I can build my knowledge of the bush a bit better. So this is Rusty, everyone. Rusty. This is the first time I'm driving Rusty today, so I'm still trying to get to know her a little bit better and understand the way in which she works. She works in many, many different ways compared to our other friend Wendy. And there we go, so that I can hear questions from you guys. And we are connected, and we can go. Awesome. That was a beautiful devil thorn that we've just found. First time I've seen the devil. Ooh, aren't we lucky? Over here, I'm just going to get into a better position. There's another beautiful flower. This one, I know what it is, but I think it would be, I think it is a foxglove. It's a foxglove. It's very similar looking to the wild sesame, but that's the foxglove, and you often find that in England. So where I was living in England last year, there were quite a few foxgloves that I would find in some of the gardens in England, and they are beautiful, aren't they? Very, very beautiful flowers. Hey? It's incredible. I think, you know, they've also got a very, very nice smell to it. So I wish I get out. They have a really, really, really nice smell. So when you do come to the Sabi Sands one day, take the time to get your hands nice and lubricant on the devil's thorn, smell the foxglove, and take a big breath of fresh oxygen here in the Sabi Sands. The Sabi Sands, if I'm just saying the Sabi Sands all the time, is 60,000 hectare property just next to the Kruger National Park. We are traversing on Djuma, which is around 1,000 hectares, and I worked many years ago. Ooh, hornbill. We can add that to our list. Yes. Fantastic news, everyone. Okay, so that is a yellow-billed hornbill. Actually thought that we had that, but we don't have that. Maybe we had it and I didn't write it down. Silly me. Shouldn't be making mistakes out here with our bird book, but I'm just going to write it down quickly. Let's have a look at what he's doing. See that significant yellow bill, and this cousin is the red-billed, very, very, very similar looking. And we also get the grey hornbill, which I always remember sounds like a crying baby when I hear its call. That's how I used to remember the sound of the grey hornbill. So we've seen the yellow, and hopefully in our morning, we haven't got much time left, but maybe we can see the red-billed. But I'm just going to write down red-billed, yellow-billed, hornbill. Here we go, everyone. Sorted. You'll often find the hornbill feeding on butterflies. We actually saw that this morning, hey Brian? We saw a beautiful sighting of a hornbill catch a butterfly in the air and eat it. So yes, butterflies are beautiful, but they also provide an important source of food to many of the birds in the bush here. Megan on Twitter. Megan, please tell me where you're from, because I would love to know where you're from. Are you my friend Megan in Cape Town? Because I know she might be watching, and if you are, hello Megan. Her question was, are there any moth species? I think that was the question. In here, yes, there are. M-O-F-F, moth. M-O-F-F. I have no idea, actually, to be quite honest with you. Yes, moss species. Are there any moss species? Okay, moss, not moth or moth, moss. Yes, there are moss species. If we go and find some of the rocks, we can find some moss species. I generally find them on rocks. Hopefully, if we find some rocks, we can see if we can identify some moss out here in the Sabi Sands. But just ahead of us, first time viewing a wildebeest with everyone. Yeah, how exciting. Look at that beautiful male wildebeest. We know it's a male because it's holding its territory here, and just in front of it is a beautiful impala. So we're getting to know the bushveld a little bit better, as we know that they love to live together. They don't mind being in each other's space. They're not going to get angry with each other. They like to be there. And the wildebeest is one of my favorite antelopes, and it's an incredible animal because of its structure. Look at that structure of the wildebeest. It's been designed for what purpose? What purpose do you guys think? Hashtag Safari Live. Do you think that the design of the wildebeest is so useful for it? And I'll give you a little hint. It's something to do with a pattern. A pattern? No, that's not going to help you. Something that wildebeest, the only thing I'm going to say is something that wildebeest are very, very well known for in Africa. The way in which they are built is known for a very particular thing that they do in Africa. If you know the answer, please hashtag Safari Live, and we can talk about it a little bit further. So that was a wildebeest, everyone. How exciting. We've seen so much this morning. I mean, we haven't seen any predators such as lions or leopards, but we've seen beautiful, beautiful little insects. We've seen some beautiful flowers, and we've seen the sexual dimorphism of the nyala, and that's something that's always incredible to note and have a look at it, and see how a female and a male can look so significantly different. And with that, let's have a look and see what James is up to. See you all now.
I'm afraid, everybody, I have found no further sign of Tingana. We've done a big loop around and we haven't found anything. So I think we're just going to continue on our way. We might be lucky in the next little while. I don't think he would have gone too far, but maybe he has. Maybe he's sought refuge in the Mlulwati drainage line, which is, of course, the main river that goes through the middle of Djuma. Anyway, so it goes. We're now driving along the Philemon's cut line. I'm not entirely sure who Philemon was, save to say that he must have been quite a fellow, because he's got two roads named after him, not two names roaded after him, two roads named after him. And it's a bit of a fire break, this cut line, and that means that either side of it we've got these clearings where there are some just beautiful grasses growing. Here's this plant. I just want to pick a piece of this plant. I'll go there, over those ones there. Now, the thing about this plant is that it smells vile. It smells like diesel. The actual flower's not too bad, but the leaves that's really unpleasant. Try that. Smell that, everybody. Take a deep breath. What do you think it tastes like? Smells like. Don't eat it, please. You will eat anything, I know. Diesel?
Brent's feet.
Brent's feet. Brent's feet are more like a Stilton cheese, I find. This is more it's got a kind of really oily kind of smell to it. And I'm sure it's a protection against being eaten. But look at how pretty the flower is. See? Lovely purple anthers and white flowers. White flowers normally smell quite nice. And this one doesn't actually smell of anything. There you are, Jean-Ray. And I don't know what it's called. I've never managed to find it, and it's all over the place. So I shall have to do a little bit more research. Maybe Judy H. is watching. Judy H., you are my resident flower genius, and I wonder if you know what that is. It smells like diesel, very pretty flower. And I know you were watching earlier, so if you do know what that is, please let me know. I will endeavour to find it in a flower book a little bit later on. We're just going to look over to the east there into that sort of cloudy sky and show you that this front is not lifted yet, but it is still very pretty. I think next week we're going to have some fairly nice, the best kind of weather you can have out here, this autumnal, warm, but not too hot, still days with deep blue skies. I think we're going to have some of that next week. Well done, John Ray. That was a difficult sighting for you. Now, what we saw earlier was an eastern paradise wider with a very long tail. And another common group of birds in South Africa that have those long sorts of tails are the widow birds. And Monkey Man, all the way from Australia, you want to know if we get those widow birds here. Monkey Man, we do get them here, but only after really large amounts of rain. We'd get two species, the red-shouldered widow and also the white-shouldered widow. And what I will do is quickly show you a picture of them, because otherwise it's going to be completely meaningless to most of you. And I've pretty much given up on my tracking at this stage because I think, we don't have much time left. So the red-shouldered widow is neither of those, none of those. The red-shouldered widow is that one there. And you can see they've got that longish tail. We don't get the red-collared widow. I mean, I imagine they've probably been seen here once or twice, but not often. So those are the two there. The red-shouldered and the white-winged. The red-shouldered and the white-winged. Now, why this one here should be called white-winged as opposed to yellow-shouldered is anyone's guess. Typical, of course, of the namers of birds. That they name birds by the most indistinct part of them. I'm just going to show you one more example, that being the black-collared barbet, whose most obvious feature is in fact his bright red head. So why on earth, you tell me, why this bird here is called the black-collared barbet and not the red-headed barbet, I just cannot imagine. Anyway, so it goes. I think sometimes scientists like to be obscure, so laymen like you and I don't know what's going on. So just a few minutes left of the drive. We'll drive along here and see what else we can see. Not likely to be a vast amount. I was slightly worried about my identification of the tawny-flanked prinia when we saw it last, but it was definitely a tawny-flanked prinia. So those of you who are keeping bird lists, that's probably also quite a good one. Those of you who've got sort of, I'd say 100 or more birds, then you will not be fine. You probably will have got the tawny-flanked prinia. but those of you sitting on under 60 or so, quite likely you haven't got the tawny flanconia, and very likely you didn't have the eastern paradise wider that we saw earlier today. Not really good for birding, this sort of weather. So old Sam's bird list, I suspect, because he started driving in the fairly miserable weather, Sam's bird list is going to explode to life as soon as next week's heat comes about. I think you and he will discover a whole lot of new birds when the weather improves and hopefully the insects come out. Now this afternoon I expect the weather to be much the same, but oh, hang on. What is that, Chandri? It is a hyena, the tracks of a hyena coming straight out of this block, going down the road. We did follow that hyena a little bit earlier. Well, we followed his tracks, going towards, interestingly, where Tingana was last night. No tracks of lions, as I said, which is, I don't know where that Nkahuma prize has gone. They'll probably pop up on Simbambili. They so often go into their block where they were. We look around and then we don't see them. Somehow they fly across and they pitch up at Simbambili. Okay, that's it from Jean-Andre and I this morning. Thank you, Jean-Andre, for your efforts today. Thank you so much. I'm not sure if he's ever going to talk to me again. Big thank you to Kirsten and Rebecca in the final control. We'll hand you back to Sam Chevalier and Brian for the last little bit of the drive, and we'll see you this afternoon at 3:30. Bye-bye.
Four drives at Safari Live. It's been very exciting, everyone. I've had such a fantastic time. It's been, the first two were nerve-wracking. The second two have been getting more comfortable as I move around. It's great, being back in the Sabi Sands, back in the bush, back with, people that love what I love. That's the most important thing, is the environment that I'm living in, with people that really appreciate and have that love and respect for the natural world. It's just great to be immersed and around that. And it's been a fantastic morning. We've seen such incredible things. Really, we have. I mean, I've still got lots to learn about the way in which things are interacting within this ecosystem, but what a pleasure to be able to learn more and to sit with people that have been here for a long time and get to know it a bit better and see what my relationship is to it. I'm sure we're going to have many experiences over the time that we have here. We've got lots of time together, and we'll learn more about the way in which the environment will work. Yo, Aqua, if I wrote a book, what would it be about? Yo, that's such a nice question. Thank you, Aqua. I've been wanting to write a book for a long time. I wanted to write a book on a fiction book, which was about children's relationship to the natural world, which would have been, it would have been fiction, something like that, but that was a long time ago. If I had to do something now, it would be more along the lines of our relationship to the natural world in terms of, how do we not only cognitively understand the natural world, but intuitively and sensorily. So I think, the title of the book would be the direct experience and how that changes us. So I'm going to try and find one word about, how different animals, how different trees, how learning about the atmosphere, learning about how the cosmos and how it all interacts and interconnects with one another. How our relationship to ourselves, our relationship to the moon, to the cycles of everything. I think that's the one thing that mankind really needs, in my opinion, of course, is that it's just a better thank you. But anyway, on that point, I'm going to say goodbye to you now. I just want to send a big thank you to the directors there with Kirsty and Rebecca and whoever else is there. Brian has been behind the camera. He's been a really, really good person, not only behind the camera, but he's been at business. As you can see with this tie, he really is a great person. I want to say thank you to James, who's been amazing out here. It's just been fantastic. Have a beautiful day. We'll see you later, and lots and lots of love.